Hi there. This one is help with 6.4 factoring special sort of expressions. There's two types, difference of squares and sum and difference of cubes that we're going to do on this video. The first one is difference of squares, the key being that it has to be a difference. We have to be subtracting. If you come across one that you're adding, there's nothing you can do with that and you would say non-factorable. Notice both of my examples here are minus signs in there, so we're going to be subtracting. And they're really pretty quick and easy. I kind of like difference of squares because basically you're going to set up your two binomials and you're going to go with x and x. You're just going to square root it and you just square root this one, 3y, 3y. If you do, and remember that since that's a minus sign, one's a plus and one's a minus. And you notice if you do your outer and inner on that, you get a positive 3xy and a negative 3xy, which cancels out, which is why there's only two terms in this. If that middle term will always cancel out on you. So it's just square root each of the terms, make one a plus and one a minus. It's as straightforward as that. If I come over here and do this, now notice these are not perfect squares. The last one was a beautiful difference of two squares. These were both perfect squares. But again, remember that you always pull out your GCF first, so factor that 3 out of there first. And then I'll have a 4x squared minus y squared. Now I am looking at a difference of two perfect squares. So I'll put the 3 there and set up my two binomials. Remember, you just square root. So that's going to be a 2x and a 2x. Square root. It's going to be a y and a y. Make one of them a plus and one of them a minus. And you got it. That's a difference of two squares. Let's look at the cubes. And this one actually does work for adding. So you could add or subtract, and you want to see that these are both perfect cubes. And then that would lead you to think, okay, I'm going to factor this like a sum and difference of cubes. All right, you got to remember this acronym. It's even in textbooks, it's so common. It's cube root, and then we call that SOPs. And that helps you remember what to do. All right, so in this example, I have an 8x cubed, that's a perfect cube. 27y cubed, that's a nice perfect cube. These always factor as a binomial with a trinomial. So a little one and then make a big one. And then right here, we go up here, we're going to do cube root. So the cube root of 8x cubed is just 2x. And then you cube root 27y cubed, which is going to be a 3y. And you always keep that same sign in between there. The SOPs, we always refer back to that binomial. So this first S in SOPs means square the term. So I'm going to take my 2x and I'm going to square it. That gives me a 4x squared. This little O means opposite sign. So it was a plus, now it's a minus. This big P then is about the number that goes in next. And that stands for the product. Remember, product means multiply. So I'm going to multiply these two terms together. So it's going to be a 6xy. Regardless, ignore the fact that it seems like it should be a positive 6xy because I have a minus. This little O for opposite sign overrides that. Just take the product and forget about the sign. This little p means plus, and this big S means square it. But this time you're squaring the last term. So it's 9y squared. I would definitely write down this acronym and keep track of that and practice that and maybe write what each one of those terms means. Let's try one more. This time these are not perfect cubes, but I could pull out a GCF first. I believe that 2 would go into both of those. So I'm going to pull a 2 out, and then I'd have a, let's see, 54 divided by 4. It's going to end up giving me a 27x cubed minus an 8. And now 27 and 8 are both perfect cubes. That happens to be the same 2 that I had over there. You know, cubes get pretty high, so we run out of options. Okay, I've got to be fast here. I'm running out of time. Binomial, trinomial. Cube root, and always keep that same sign in there. And then SOPs. Square the first one. Opposite sign. Product. Always a plus sign.